Kusama is one of the most famous female contemporary artists of our time. She creates not only large and eye-catching installation pieces, but smaller scale sculptures and paintings as well. Her art is of her own unique style and reflects many aspects of her personality. Polka dots are the most identifying quality of her art and can be seen in her work throughout the entirety of her career. Kusama has suffered from neurosis her entire life, which causes hallucinations. She claims that she saw a pumpkin talking to her once. This is what inspired her pumpkin sculptures, which are covered in polka dots. This is all according to an article published by Anne Fifield to the Washington Post on February 15, 2017. Kusama says that she thinks of the polka dots in her work as self-obliteration. In other words, Kusama utilizes the repetitive nature of her art in order to silence the noise in her head. However, they hold much more meaning than this. To quote Kusama herself, "Our Earth is only one polka dot among a million stars in the cosmos. Polka dots are a way to infinity." This quote really sums up the idea behind Kusama's famous polka dots. While Yayoi Kusama has lived in a mental hospital for about 4 decades now, she continues to create art all the time. So what are Kusama's main inspirations? According to an article published by Kath Pound at BBC on September 26, 2018, some of her earlier work was created in order to promote peace or to criticize the art establishment. One performance piece that she created where she painted naked men with polka dots and had them walk the streets of New York was one of these pieces. This project was also what led to her family becoming very ashamed of her and her work. This ultimately led to a decline in her mental state, and this is when she decided to check herself into a mental hospital. After this point, her art was essentially created in order to confront her own demons. One of the most traumatic things that happened to Kusama as a child was when she witnessed her father cheating on her mother. This led her to never have an affinity for sex her entire life. In order to confront her fear of sex, she would create many phallic-like structures throughout her career. While her art is enjoyable to others and is meant to impact those who view it, ultimately her art is a form of therapy for her. Kusama once said, "By doing Freudian analysis, I could analyze my psychological problems. The feelings behind my works are subconscious and psychosomatic. My work is based on developing my psychological problems into art." Kusama utilizes many materials to create her art. However, these materials do not often change very much. She takes materials that she is used to and constantly reinvents them. An article from hirshhorn.si.edu goes into detail about how her techniques and materials have evolved over time. Her work began on paper, where she utilized a surrealist technique called decalcanoma, where she would blot a piece of paper with wet gouache paint and then would press another sheet against it to spread the pigment around. This is a painting by Kusama which is an example of this technique. This piece is called The Island and the Sea No. 1. She also created early works that she would call nets of polka dots. Here is a clip of Kusama herself explaining how she transitioned from just painting to creating large-scale installation pieces.
私は死に物狂いで戦いました。美術のことで。そして一生懸命絵を描き、細かい網目の作品を作って、そしてそれが33フィートの大きさになるの。朝から晩までその網を描いておりました。私がね、絵を描いてるとね、そしてその絵がね、床を見るとその絵がね、発展してて、向こうを見るとね、幻覚が来て、全部ね、幻覚になって渦まって、それでね、結局私はね、エンバイラメンタル超芸術家としてね、発展してる。
A material that is also very prevalent in Kusama's work is clay when she created any type of sculpture. She would create small phallic-like tubers with fabric and attach them to things as well. She often puts them on furniture or leaves them on their own, like when she created the infinity room called Phallic Field, which is pictured here. The tubers are stuffed and made of fabric. Of course, mirrors also play a huge part in creating her infinity rooms as well. I actually had the pleasure of visiting her latest infinity room at the Wonder Museum in Chicago, and she utilized mirrors in a way that was completely unique and created an infinity like I have never seen before. This included creating hundreds of mirrored balls which hang inside of the infinity room, creating reflections that seem to go on forever. Finally, another important material that Kusama uses is stickers. In her installation piece called The Obliteration Room, Kusama created a blank space which could constantly be impacted by those who enter it through the use of colorful stickers. The guests are encouraged to place them around the room. There are so many things that I love about Kusama's art, and she is my favorite contemporary artist. This is mainly because whenever I look at her work, I always find something new and intriguing about it. I think that this is because of how much repetition exists in most of her work, and there is always something new and exciting to discover. Some people says that her art gives them a headache because they don't know where to look, but I personally think that there is a beauty in how chaotic her work can seem. Her work reflects what is going on in her mind and is always bright and interesting. However, not everyone is so keen on Kusama's work. Jonathan Jones, a critic from The Guardian, published an article on October 2, 2018, where he describes his experience visiting one of Kusama's famous infinity rooms. He expressed his opinion that Kusama is not the greatest artist of our time, and if she is, then that does not say much about our time. He argues that the infinity room that he visited was about as artistic as a lava lamp, and seemed to cater to those who were only there to take selfies. Another critic from the LA Times had a similar opinion about Kusama's work. Christopher Nine published an article on October 31, 2017, where he explains that Kusama's art really does just seem like it is there to be photographed as opposed to being experienced. This is because guests are only allowed 30 seconds to enter. While he thought that this was not enough time to experience the art, he then took it back and said that it was too much time. He said that there was not much to see, just repetitive patterns and lights. I suppose that this describes the controversy that surrounds Kusama's art. Does she create it simply to satisfy those looking for a cool picture? I personally don't think so. I think that she creates what she sees in her mind and then brings it to life for other people to experience. Her infinity rooms are meant to be immersive, and people take pictures of them because they think they're cool, but that does not mean that that is the purpose behind her art in general. To conclude this presentation, I would like to address how Kusama's work can connect to other fields of study. I think that the most prevalent connection can be made with Kusama's art is with psychology. Kusama's neurosis and childhood trauma has expressed itself throughout nearly all of her art. Her work is evidence that art is truly therapeutic and can help people express emotions that they would otherwise be uncomfortable speaking out about. Kusama is an artist that will inspire people for generations. There was even a documentary recently made about her life. Please go and check it out for more information. She is a truly amazing person to learn about. Thank you for listening.